Okay, let's dive into one of the most high-yield topics you'll ever face on your board exams, crystal arthropathy. This is one of those areas where they love to set traps, but if you get this right, you're absolutely golden. So today, we're going to crack the crystal code and finally separate gout from its tricky look-alike, pseudogout.
And I love this quote from our source material because it just sets the stage perfectly. You have to understand, this isn't just some boring inflammation. It's a full-on war. We're talking about microscopic, razor-sharp crystals acting like tiny daggers inside the joint space, which, you can imagine, triggers an unbelievably painful response. Thinking of it as a mechanical war, well, that really frames what we're about to get into.
So, in this war, who are our two main players? Well, on one side, you've got gout, the famous one, and on the other, its sneaky impersonator, pseudogout. Your job, as the brilliant test taker, is to be the general on the battlefield who can tell them apart in a split second.
So here it is, your first battlefield intelligence report. Think of gout as this aggressive invasion. You've got these sharp, needle-shaped monosodium urate crystals just storming the beachhead of the big toe, that classic podagra we all know. Now pseudogout, it's a bit more like sabotage. Its calcium pyrophosphate crystals are rhomboid-shaped, kind of chunky, and they prefer to infiltrate the bigger joints like the knee. So remember this, sharp needles mean gout, chunky rhomboids mean pseudogout.
Now look, knowing the location and the crystal shape, that's great, but it's not going to get you all the points. The definitive, game-winning move, the master logic gate for your exam, is understanding what these crystals look like under a polarizing microscope. This is not optional, folks. Mastering this polarization matrix is absolutely critical if you want to avoid those traps.
And you know the drill. Before we go any further, here's the mandatory disclaimer. Everything we're covering here is for educational purposes, to help you crush your international medical exams. This is not medical advice. For any real-world clinical decisions, you always consult the official guidelines and a rheumatologist, okay? Let's move on.
All right, let's get into the first big trap. And trust me, this is a classic. They love this one because it's designed to catch you off guard. It's all about a lab test that seems so logical, but it's actually a complete misdirection during an acute attack.
So, picture this. Here's the case you're going to see. A 60-year-old man walks in, well, he's probably hobbling in, with a classic case of podagrap. His big toe is swollen, beet red, and so painful he can't even stand a bed sheet touching it. The whole picture is just screaming gout, right? So, what's your next step?
The first instinct for so many people, and this is the trap, is to order a serum uric acid level. It makes perfect sense on the surface, doesn't it? Gout is a problem of high uric acid, so you check the uric acid level. It feels like the right move, but is it?
No way! It's the classic board trap. And here's the reason why. During an acute gout flare, all that extra uric acid is literally crashing out of the bloodstream and dumping into the joint to form those nasty crystals. And this process, well, it can actually cause the serum uric acid level to drop, sometimes to a normal or even a low level. That's why we call it the liar. If you rely on that test, you're going to go down a completely wrong path. So what is the next best step that the boards are always looking for? It's this simple 3-step algorithm. You see that hot, swollen joint? Your immediate move is not a blood test. It's an arthrocentesis. You got to tap that joint. Then you take that fluid, you put it under a polarizing microscope. That right there is the only definitive way to make the diagnosis, period. Okay, so you've successfully tapped the joint, you've got the synovial fluid. Now it is the moment of truth. We're heading to the microscope. This is where we use our Birefringence compass to finally crack the crystal code and lock in the diagnosis.
Now this table has all the juicy details, but for your exam, I want you to laser focus on one thing, the color of the crystals when they're parallel to the light. Look, birefringence is just a fancy word for how a crystal bends light. You don't need to get lost in the physics. All you have to remember is this. Negative birefringence in gout means those needles look yellow, and positive birefringence in pseudogout means those rhomboids look blue.
This slide right here, this is it. This is the whole ballgame. If you only remember one thing from this entire explainer, please make it this. When the crystals are parallel to the light, yellow is gout, blue is pseudogout. Burn that into your brain. Tattoo it on the back of your hand. It is the single highest yield point that will absolutely save your skin on the exam.
Okay, amazing. You've nailed the diagnosis. You feel like a genius. But don't start celebrating just yet, because here comes the second equally dangerous trap: management. This is all about knowing what to do and, more importantly, what not to do during that acute flare. So allopurinol is the go-to drug for long-term management, right? It lowers uric acid, so it's super tempting to start it immediately, but you cannot do that. This quote is perfect. Starting allopurinol during an acute attack is like throwing water on a grease fire. Why? Because it rapidly changes the serum uric acid levels, which paradoxically shakes things up and mobilizes even more crystals into the joint. You will cause a massive, painful flare-up and make everything 10 times worse. This is the protocol you have to follow. Just remember the wait 2 weeks rule. On day 0, you treat the acute inflammation. You put out the fire with things like NSAIDs, colchicine, or steroids. Then, you wait. You just let things cool down. Only after the flare has completely gone away, usually about 2 weeks later, is it safe to start a long-term medication like allopurinol. And here's the curveball they love to throw at you on exams. What if your patient is already taking allopurinol every day and they get a flare? What do? You do not stop it. The key principle here is stability. The danger comes from suddenly changing the uric acid level. So if they're already on a stable dose, you keep it going, and you just treat the acute flare on top of it.
All right, we've covered the traps, the diagnosis, and the management. Now let's lock all this information down with a final logic check. A little rapid-fire review to make sure these facts are neurally encoded for good. Ready?
Okay, let's do this. Quick. Gout, what's the crystal shape?
Needle-shaped.
Yes.
Okay, if it looks yellow when it's parallel to the light,
That is gout. Negative birefringence. Perfect.
And the big management question, allopurinol. Do you start it during an acute attack?
Never. You wait 2 weeks. That's the rule. You got it? Okay, one last little gem for you. When you diagnose pseudogout, your job isn't quite finished. You have to ask why. Why does this patient have it? You need to look for 2 key underlying conditions: hemochromatosis, which is an iron overload state, and hyperparathyroidism, which causes high calcium. Just think of iron and calcium as the raw materials for those blue rhomboid crystals.
So, there you have it. You've navigated the crystal war. You've dodged the traps, and you've secured the logic. You know the difference between gout and pseudogout cold. But what happens when the invader isn't a crystal at all, but a bacterium? Well, that's when you're dealing with a septic joint, and that is an entirely different, even more urgent emergency. But that's a battle for our next explainer.